A blind boy tapped his cane against a biker's boot and asked to follow him home. 24 hours later, 30 Harleys returned, and what happened next made the neighborhood's worst bully go pale. Before we dive in, quick question: where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments right now. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get into the story. The diesel stink hit Willick's nostrils before the cold did. Detroit's industrial edge had a smell: wet concrete, burning oil, and something else. Rust, maybe, or regret. He sat astride his Harley at the grimy Shell station on Gresham, the engine's rumble a steady heartbeat between his thighs. Around him, a dozen steel riders formed a loose circle of chrome and leather, their exhaust pipes coughing gray clouds into the November air. Behind them, the neon, open 24 hours sign flickered like a dying pulse. Willick cracked his knuckles, the sound sharp as a twig snap. 43 years on the road had carved his face into something hard, a cliff edge worn down by wind and bad weather. The patch on his back read President in gold thread that had gone dull years ago. Then he heard it. Top, top, top. The sound cut through the engine growl like a knife through butter. Delicate, purposeful, wrong for this place. Every head turned. A kid, no, smaller than that, a child, was navigating the broken asphalt with a white cane. 9 years old, maybe 10. His jacket was thin, striped 2 sizes too big. His jeans had a hole in one knee. The cane found every crack, every shard of glass, every obstacle in its path with mechanical precision. The boy stopped when the cane met leather. Willick looked down. The kid's cane rested against his steel-toed boot, like it belonged there. The boy's eyes were clouded, milky, aimed somewhere near Willick's chest, but not quite landing. His face was tilted up, listening to something the others couldn't hear. "Sir." The voice was small but steady, clear as a bell in church. "Sarge." Willick's second shifted his weight. The motion made his bike creak. The boy didn't flinch. "Your engine," the kid said, and there was something in his voice now, something that sounded like hope wrapped in desperation. "It's real steady. Can I follow you home? The noise helps me know I'm on the right path." The words hung in the air like smoke. Willick had stared down cops, rival clubs, men twice his size looking to prove something with fists and broken bottles. But this? A blind kid asking for help like it was the simplest thing in the world? The steel riders went dead silent. Behind them, a semi-truck roared past on Gresham, its horn blaring. Somewhere deeper in the city, a siren wailed. The fluorescent lights inside the gas station flickered again, casting their faces in alternating shadow and sickly yellow. Willick's jaw worked. His hands tightened on the handlebars until his knuckles went white under the tattoos. The kid just stood there, waiting, trusting. Finally, after what felt like a full minute, Willick's voice came out rough as gravel. "All right, kid." He throttled the engine down to barely a purr. "Let's get you home." The boy's face broke into a smile, so pure it hurt to look at. That's when Willick saw them, across the street, leaning against a rusted chain-link fence. 3 teenage boys, watching. One of them, a wiry punk in a tiger's cap, was grinning. He made a gesture, snapping an invisible stick in half. And Willick's blood went cold. The Harley's rumble dropped to a whisper, barely louder than a growl in a junkyard dog's throat. Willick kept his right hand steady on the throttle, crawling at 2 miles per hour, while Jasper's cane found its rhythm behind him. Top, top, top. The sound echoed off crumbling brick walls and boarded-up windows. 3 blocks in, Willick saw it, a jagged crack in the sidewalk wide enough to swallow the kid's foot. Then another. A toppled garbage can spilling rotting takeout containers across the path. A shopping cart on its side, one wheel still spinning. How the hell did this kid do this every day? The answer came from a sagging porch on their left. For teenagers lounged there, smoke curling from a cigarette. The wiry one in the tiger's cap, Ricky, stood up, grinning like he'd just won something. "Joe, look, it's the biker boy." His voice carried across the street. "What did you do, Jasper? Hire yourself some muscle." The other teens laughed. One made a barking sound. Willick's hand tightened on the throttle. Every instinct screamed, "Stop the bike. Walk over there. Teach these punks some manners." But Jasper just kept walking, his small shoulders hunched forward, cane tapping faster now. The kid had learned to ignore them. That knowledge sat in Willick's gut like a stone. 2 blocks later, a new problem emerged. Peterson stood on his pristine porch like a general surveying enemy territory. Khaki pants, polo shirt tucked in, a laminated neighborhood watch captain badge clipped to his belt. His phone was already up, camera pointed directly at Willick. "Click, click, click. I'm documenting this," Peterson called out, his voice dripping with righteousness. A known motorcycle club member. Helping a kid get home safe, Willick cut him off, not bothering to look over. Peterson's face flushed red. "The city's going to hear about this. Your clubhouse is a public nuisance, and I've got 3 council members who agree." Willick twisted the throttle just enough to drown him out. The engine's roar was his only response. They turned onto Jasper Street, if you could call it that. More potholes than pavement. A burned-out Buick on cinder blocks. Chain-link fences with more holes than links. "This one, sir," Jasper said softly, stopping at a house with peeling yellow paint and a porch that sagged like a broken promise. The door opened before Willick could cut the engine. The woman who emerged was ancient in the way bones get when they've carried too much weight too long. Her hands were twisted claws, arthritis bad, clutching a sweater around her thin frame. When she saw Willick, fear flashed across her face. Then she saw Jasper, and the fear transformed into something worse. Exhaustion that went bone deep. "I tell him to wait for me," Eleanor whispered, her voice trembling like dead leaves. "But he wants to be a big man. And my old legs." She looked down at her gnarled hands. "They just can't make the trip twice a day anymore." Willick nodded. No words came. What could he say? That was wrong? That a 9-year-old shouldn't have to navigate this war zone alone? She already knew. He kick-started the Harley, the engine catching with a roar that seemed too loud for this quiet moment. As he pulled away, he glanced in his mirror one last time. Jasper stood on the porch, smiling, waving. 3 houses down, Ricky stepped into the street, holding something. Jasper's white cane. Snapped clean in half. Jasper's hand found empty air where his cane should have been. He'd propped it against the bus stop bench last night. His grandmother had walked him down after dinner, both of them feeling safer after the biker's escort. Now, in the gray morning light, his fingers searched the metal bench, the concrete, the cold air. Nothing. Then his shoe hit something in a puddle. Metal. Wrong weight. He bent down, his small hands closing around a rusty car antenna, bent and broken. Something was tied to it, cardboard, soaked and rough. "Grandma," his voice cracked. "Grandma, what does it say?" Eleanor's gnarled fingers trembled as she held the sign up to catch the streetlight. The black marker was still fresh, bleeding slightly in the rain. Biker Boy's new toy. Her gasp told Jasper everything he needed to know. 20 minutes later, Eleanor's shaking hands finally managed to dial the number from the crumpled paper Willick had pressed in her palm yesterday. Just in case, he'd said. The phone rang once. Twice. Steel Riders. The voice was gravel and motor oil. "Please," Eleanor whispered. "It's Jasper." They took his cane. They were coming. The line went dead. At the clubhouse, Sarge watched Willick's face turn to stone. Not angry stone. Something colder. More dangerous. "Will." Sarge tried. "This ain't just about the kid, is it?" Willick didn't answer. He just walked to his locker. The one with the Steel Riders insignia painted on it. The paint chipped from 20 years of road dust. His hands moved with mechanical precision. Combination lock, click, open. Inside, past the spare chains and the '78 Sturgis patch, he found his wallet. Cracked leather. Faded brown. Older than most of the bikes in the lot. From a hidden fold, he pulled out a photograph. The edges were soft as cloth from decades of handling. A little girl, maybe 7, smiled at the camera. Metal crutches under both arms. Her leg braces caught the flash. "They broke her crutches once," Willick said, his voice thick with something that sounded like broken glass. "I was 17, too scared and stupid to do anything but watch her cry." He looked at Sarge, and his eyes weren't human anymore. There was something forged in a furnace. "I wasn't there for her, Sarge." His fist closed around the photo. "I won't make that mistake again." The locker slammed shut with a sound like a coffin closing. "Call them in," Willick said, already walking toward the door. "We got a job to do." Sarge hesitated. "What kind of job we talking about, Will?" Willick stopped, his hand on the doorframe. When he turned back, there was something terrifying in his smile. "Hammers," he said, "not fists." The ground started trembling at 6:47 a.m. 30 Harleys rolled onto Jasper Street like thunder made metal. The roar shook windows, set off car alarms, made babies cry 3 blocks over. Behind curtains, neighbors grabbed phones. Peterson was already on his porch, phone pressed to his ear, his voice rising. "Gang invasion, yes. I'm serious. Send units." Across the street, Ricky and his crew stepped onto their porch. The smirks were still there, but something else flickered underneath. Uncertainty. Fear. Then the bikers started unloading the truck. Not chains. Not bats. Shovels. Crowbars. Bags of Quikrete cement. Lumber that still smelled like sawdust. Thick spools of rope that could hold a ship to dock. Peterson's voice died mid-sentence. Willick walked straight to Jasper's door, his boots heavy on the cracked steps. When Eleanor opened it, the boy was already there, his small hand gripping her sweater. Willick knelt down. From inside his leather jacket, he pulled out a white cane. But this wasn't like the old one. The handle was wrapped in the same black leather as his Harley's grips, supple, broken in, real. At the base, branded into the wood, was a steel cog, the Detroit Steel Riders insignia. "This one's stronger," Willick said, his voice rough as gravel. "It's got family behind it." Jasper's fingers traced the leather, found the cog. His clouded eyes filled with tears. Behind them, the work began. Sledgehammers hit broken concrete. Shovels bit into dirt. The sound was fury, but constructive fury. Creation, not destruction. Men who'd spent their lives taking things apart were building something permanent. Ricky watched from his porch, his smirk dissolving like sugar in rain. The bikers worked in silence, raising posts, stringing rope, pouring cement. From Jasper's door to the bus stop, one unbreakable line. Then Ricky's phone buzzed. He looked down. His face went white. A text. 3 words. "We see you." The last post went into the ground at noon. Cement smooth. Rope strung tight. The path ran straight and true from Jasper's door to the bus stop. Unbreakable. Eleanor emerged with a tray, tears streaming down her weathered face. A thermos of coffee. chipped mugs that had seen better days. She handed the first one to Willick with shaking hands. "God bless you," she whispered. Across the street, Peterson lowered his phone. The complaint form in his other hand, 3 pages of typed grievances, trembled. He looked at the path, at the grandmother serving coffee to thugs, at Ricky's door where the teens had retreated inside, their porch now empty. He crumpled the form slowly, deliberately, dropped it in his trash can. Willick pulled something from his jacket, a small leather patch, the size of a playing card, the Steel Riders insignia stitched in silver thread. He pinned it to Jasper's thin jacket. "You're Steel Riders now, kid," Willick said, his voice thick. "Anyone messes with you, they mess with 30 brothers." Jasper's hand found the patch, traced the cog design. Then he gripped his new cane, his other hand sliding along the rope. He walked, alone, confident, from his door to the bus stop and back. The boy who'd tapped his way through broken glass and cruel laughter now walked under the protection of an army. Willick watched, that rare smile cracking his weathered face. 40 years of regret poured into concrete and rope. Behind him, 30 engines revved in unison. Not a threat, but a promise. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. If you believe that the toughest warriors are the ones who choose to build instead of break, and that family isn't about blood, but about who shows up when you need them most, smash that like button and share this story with someone who needs to remember what real strength looks like. Subscribe right now for more stories that prove humanity isn't dead. It's just wearing leather. And don't click away yet. Check out the 2 videos on your screen right now, because they're going to hit you just as hard as this one did.